Well, hello and welcome to Cheek's Wheel Ride. I'm Will Cheek. Today I'm not going to be riding anything. If you watched my last video in West Virginia, you saw me hurt my back, so I'm sort of in rehab mode right now. I've been getting a lot of questions about my van setup, so I thought, well, since I can't ride, I'll do a video, little van tour. Now, if you're expecting an Instagram glamour van life build, well, just keep scrolling because this ain't it. This is a cheap, budget, DIY with no actual skills, modular, functional type of build. So what I've got here is a 2016 Ford Transit T250 extended length high roof. Personally, I wouldn't go with a smaller van. I'll get into that a little bit later. This has got the 3.7 liter naturally aspirated V6. If you're towing, I recommend the 3.5 EcoBoost. Other than that, the naturally aspirated V6 is plenty for what I use it for. If you're towing, you need the extra torque of the EcoBoost. I don't tow, I don't even have a hitch on this van. I carry everything I need inside. I really just don't like trailers, and it's not because I can't drive one. I'm pretty good at towing a trailer and backing a trailer, but I've had a lot of bad experiences with flat tires, wheel bearings burning up. Trailers just add a lot of failure points. Tires, wheel bearings, lights, connections. I've had them have a major impact on a trip. Now this van's got over 280,000 miles on it. It's lived a couple lives now, a lot of which in Midwest Ohio, and it's got the rust to prove it. But the engine's strong, transmission shifts strong. It's got a little shudder, but the transmission shifts real strong, and it drives really good. Now just ignore the mess. This thing's still dirty from having all the mud in it from 24 hours of Appalachia. One of the biggest things that's debated about camper van builds is the layout. Now when I bought this van, it was already partially built out. This bed and the wall and this seat were already in here. There was some paneling on the walls. It wasn't covered, it wasn't finished. But I think even if I were to build it, I'll probably build it pretty similar to how it's built out today. I think that for a motorcycle primary use and a single camper, this is the best, or one of the best layouts you can get. I see a lot of other purpose-built layouts that really limit you on what you can haul. I'll get into the back in just a minute to show you, but for now, I'm going to show you the living area. The drawback of this layout is the smaller living area. For me, I do 99% of my trips solo. This works out great. It's plenty of room. I got a swivel chair, I can face backwards, I've got a TV, I've got a bed. One of my favorite things about this layout is that I don't have to set up anything to camp. I don't have to set up anything to sleep. On my trips, almost every time, I will stop partway and sleep. It may be a campsite, but most likely not. It probably is more likely to be a truck stop or similar. And all I have to do to go from driving to sleeping is I usually put the covers on the windows for some privacy, go from the driver's seat to the bed. That's it. And a lot of times people don't even know I'm sleeping in here. It looks just like a plumber's van to most people. All right, so let's talk electrical. When I first bought this van, there was a house battery underneath the driver's seat next to the car battery, and the previous owner had just wired it directly to the car battery. He said, oh yeah, 2 or 3 days you can go on this setup. And I thought, yeah, but then at the end of those 2 or 3 days, your van's not gonna start. So the first thing I did was wire in a battery isolator. That way, it only uses the house battery for these things when you're camping, and then when you start the van, it connects the 2 batteries and charges both through the alternator. Eventually, I upgraded from that lead acid setup. It was 100 amp hour. Now I've got a lithium ion 150 amp hour battery under there. And because you cannot directly connect a lead acid with a lithium ion, I have installed a Renogy DC to DC charger. It basically does the same thing. Whenever it detects voltage from the alternator, it connects them and they start charging. It's essentially how that works. I have a small 400 watt inverter. It's not really ideal, but it's just what I had laying around. Most van setups have a much bigger inverter, but I don't have a whole lot of need. I basically run it off, I run my TV off of it and I charge some of my stuff. I've added this, which is a battery charger. It charges automatically anytime it's plugged into shore power. It charges my battery basically anytime I'm parked. And then above that, I just have some USB charging ports with some 12 volt outlet that I installed that goes directly through my fuse box and connects to the battery. Okay, so what do I run off of this battery setup? And it's not very much. The biggest draw for power is my 12 volt fridge. It doesn't draw that much. I run my smart TV off of it. I connect that to my phone's hotspot, or if I don't have service, I also have a Starlink Mini that I've used only just a couple times. Other than that, I just got a lot of things to charge. I mean, cameras, phones, iPads, drones, sometimes my laptop even. I just charge all those, keep all those things charged. And I even have a portable power station that I use if I need to do that. Okay, so what about solar? Well, back here, I keep a portable solar array. It's 100 watts, I think. I rarely use it because if you've watched my videos, you see that I pretty much only take 3 or 4 day trips at a time, and I don't have that big of power needs. I do have a generator, but honestly, I've never even used it. I also added some lights. These are just LED strips I got on Amazon. They're on a dimmer switch, so I can have them dim or bright, whatever I need. Okay, so what about on-the-road entertainment? I upgraded the head unit to a Pioneer CarPlay unit, and the doors, I replaced the factory speakers with some Pioneer units. And then these Bose speakers, which I have on each side, they're actually hand-me-downs from my house. These were mounted on my patio when I first moved in. They're probably from the 90s when the house was built. We upgraded our patio speakers, and so I thought, hell, why not install these in the van? And they sound amazing, especially for their age. Also under this seat, I have a powered subwoofer. It's not high wattage, but it sounds really good. Okay, so back to what I said about versatility for this layout. The second row seat is out of a Ford Transit passenger van, and it allows me to haul my kids. I use this van very often to take my kids mountain biking or dirt bike riding, put the car seats right in here, and it works great. The bed's built into the wall. This is just a memory foam mattress. It's almost a twin size, a little bit shorter. I'm only 5'9", 5'10", and so I sleep diagonal, and it's perfect. If you're taller than that, I wouldn't recommend this setup. However, if you do some research, you'll see that some people who are taller, have used a long ways bed setup, but they don't have panels. If you take the panels off of the walls, you get another few inches on either side. Look into that if you're tall. As far as what I keep under here, it's mostly a pantry for dry goods, extra water. I do have a couple tools in there, some tools hidden back in here, but that's about it. Another thing I installed was this roof vent fan. Pretty simple install. Going back now, I sort of wish I would have gone ahead and spent the money on a roof AC. That's what I don't have in this van, is any sort of air conditioning. They used to be really expensive, over $1,000 easily, but now they've come down a lot. And if I get around to it, I'll probably decide to replace this with one of the roof vent ACs that's closer to around $400 or $500. For now, I'll just keep doing what I've been doing, and in the summertime, I go find high elevation like Colorado. I know, I need to put some insulation and a ceiling in this thing. I'll get around to it someday. If I really need it, I do have this portable AC that I can take and vent out the driver's side window, but it's a single hose vent and doesn't work that well. It blows a lot of cold air, but never seems to drop the temperature inside the van. I think the dual hose setup would be a lot better, but if I spend any more time, effort, and money on an AC, I'm just gonna do a roof vent. And pretty much the same story goes for a heater. I have a diesel heater and it works really well, but I haven't really perfected that setup. First time I used it, it spilled a whole bunch of diesel in the back of my van. If I need a heater that serious to go riding, I'm probably not going riding. I'm pretty much a fair weather rider and don't ride in serious cold. The previous owner set up this shore power plug. It's pretty well done, and it goes to all of the powered outlets. I think there's 4, maybe 5 throughout the inside of the van. Now when I bought the van, it had this dent in it, and I decided, well, I'm not gonna spend the money to fix the dent, it's just cosmetic. So this is how I fixed it. If you're a fan of Wile E. Coyote or Looney Tunes, you'll get it. The guy I bought it from said he got it from an auction site and didn't even know about the dent until he showed up after he'd already paid for it. If you look just right, you'll see remnants of this van's previous life. It must have been some sort of medical service delivery van. I got these wheels super cheap on Facebook Marketplace. I think they were only like $300 or $400. I just didn't want the van to look like it was some electrician's van. You know, I wanted to stand out just a little bit. They used the stock tires, the stock spec, same weight, same rating, everything. So now we're at the business end of the van. This is sort of what I call the garage, and this is where you'll notice the versatility. A lot of people build their van with so much specification that they limit themselves on what they can haul and what size of object they can haul. Even But guys who are focused on motorcycle riding will build a van so specific they can only fit one type of bike, maybe only one bike. You'll see that this has room for any type of bike and multiple bikes. I have many times hauled multiple bikes on my trips. At the very front, you'll see I took apart a Saris bike rack and mounted it to the front wall so that I could haul my mountain bike. Over on the other side, there's a wheel chalk. That's where I mount my Aprilia Tuono in the very front, next to the toolbox and the spare tire. The E-track is on the walls and on the floor. That's how I mount pretty much any other type of bike. I hook to the foot pegs down to the E-track on the ground. Works great. I have lots of places I can move forward and backward because there's multiple rows of E-track, and obviously side to side to accommodate whatever size bike I need to fit. Now, this microwave was installed by the previous owner. It runs off of shore power only. I've actually never used it. This shelf was also installed by the previous owner. I use it to carry various types of straps, electrical cords, heaters, just various things. And here is a table if I need it, which I pretty much never do. But I've used it a couple times and it works good. So you can see there's still lots of space in here, lots of height and length. From the back door to the bottom of that front is, I think, over 10 feet. So I've hauled plywood, I've hauled furniture, I've hauled large auto parts like engines and transmissions. This thing can still be a cargo van when you're not camping or hauling motorcycles. It's very versatile. I know this is controversial, but I'm gonna say it. Vans like this are better at being pickup trucks than pickup trucks when it comes to hauling payload. Towing's a little different. These vans are not body on frame. And so, yeah, I think the ProMasters, I think they would actually rip off the back if you abuse them too much towing. So if you're towing, then maybe a pickup truck is better. But for regular hauling payload, just get a van. It's better. I get a lot of questions about high roof versus mid roof. I stepped into a mid-roof, I test drove a mid-roof, and I think if your bed setup is different, a mid-roof is fine. With a mid-roof, I still have about an inch or two that I can stand up. Standing up is non-negotiable for vans like this, if you ask me. But if you want to maximize your space and have a bed set up like this, you need the high roof for sure. Now, one thing you probably noticed I don't have is a bathroom or a shower, but that's where this comes in. This is an instant hot water heater. It runs off of propane. I can take that propane bottle in and out. It's not mounted in here permanently. This requires no power except for a battery in there that just gives it an initial ignition. Under this flap is a water pump connected to the front and some extra plumbing. It pumps water out of this jug through this where it heats it up, comes out right here. I have sort of an outdoor shower. Now, this is just a 7-gallon tank. I have considered mounting a tank somewhere inside or out, but it adds complexity, cost, and you gotta winterize it, and it's just a pain. I like how I can take this in and out. When I'm not using it, I can use the space for other things. 7 gallons, if you're my wife, that's not even one shower. But for me, in the backcountry, being conservative, I get 3 or 4 showers out of this, no problem, and it's easy to refill if I need to. Well, what about some privacy? Well, 90% of the time, I'm dispersed camping, and there's nobody around anyway. However, I do have a curtain set up, I'll show you. It hangs right here. And all it is a shower curtain with some carabiners, and I mounted these loops. Hey, don't peek in here. I'm showering, dude. Like I said, very simple setup, give you some privacy. These on each corner, this is just a cut up poncho that I have holding up with magnets. No big deal, modular. I can take it down if I'm not using it. Before I had this, I was showering here and some guy rode by on a bicycle. You should have seen the look on his face. So I have this container set up with a quick disconnect. I usually put it up on my bike or something so gravity helps a little bit with it, but it's easy. Even if you don't, connect it, open the valve, hit the pump, which is right here. Whoops, forgot there was still water in there. Boom, voila, cheap, easy, modular. I also carry this so that I can pop it out and not be showering in a mud hole. All right, so what about the competition? Well, I've had a GMC Savannah and a Chevy Express, and I think they're good options for a really low budget build, but they don't drive as nice as these. They drive like tanks, and they don't have as much cargo capacity. Also, they're a lot harder to find with a tall roof, and even if you do find a tall roof, you usually end up with the same height doors in the back, which can be a real problem for an adventure bike or even some tall dirt bikes. I know the ProMasters have a little bit of advantage for interior cargo space because they're front wheel drive and they don't have to accommodate a rear drive line. But they have a terrible reputation for reliability. Their engines do not last, like pretty much any Stellantis product. I see videos all the time of engines going out at 100K. If I was going to shop around again, I would probably get another Transit, but I would look strongly at the big Sprinter, because while this is the biggest Transit you can get, they do have a dually rear wheel, but it's not any bigger as far as cargo box size. The Sprinter is actually a bigger cargo box, and that would be interesting to me, but I'm not big on Mercedes, I'm not big on diesel, so we'd have to see. Would I buy this again? 100% yes. As far as investing in your motorcycle hobby, this is one of the best purchases I have ever made. It makes taking trips so easy. I basically do trips for the cost of fuel. This gets about 15 miles to the gallon. I disperse camp. I don't even pay for a campground. I prefer to disperse camp out in National Forest or BLM land, so I'm not even paying campground fees. I'm not paying hotel fees. My trips basically cost me just fuel. What about future upgrades? Well, I've been contacted by a company about doing solar. I don't know if I need solar. I don't use a whole lot of power to need solar, but we'll see. I don't know if it's worth the hassle of figuring out a way to mount it, running the wiring, the cost and complexity of it all. We'll see. Probably what's on my short list is probably a roof AC. Other than that, just making this driveline last. 280K is a lot of miles. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Maybe you learned something, but I'm not suggesting you build anything in yours like I did mine. It's just what I did. If you have any suggestions, I'd love to hear it. Let me know in the comments what you think I should do, how you think I should change it, what I should do, how much I did wrong. I hope you enjoyed it. See you at the next one.